My name is Zarko Meseldzija, and I'm the CEO and director of RecycLiCo Battery Materials. So RecycLiCo is a battery materials company focused on lithium-ion battery recycling and upcycling. So taking lithium, nickel, manganese, and cobalt from lithium-ion battery waste and recycling and upcycling it back into usable battery-ready products for enabling a circular economy.
Brilliant. Okay, Zarko, thanks very much for coming on board. We love these stories, battery metal stories, but more importantly, going further downstream with recycling and upcycling. Should we just start with a sort of technical description of what it is that your product or products do, and what you're actually recovering and upcycling?
Yeah, just like a quick description because recycling is this big, broad definition of what that really is. And really, I think most people, when they think about recycling, it's going to be, the end of life electric vehicle, like what happens to that battery. And, the common steps, you're going to have to collect that battery, discharge it, and you're going to have to mechanically shred it into what would be called a black mass material. And in that material, you have your valuable components. Think of that as like your mined concentrate. But then from there, you need to process that material further. And that's called the hydrometallurgical side. And that's actually extracting the materials. And then that's where RecycLiCo has really been focusing on its patented technology since 2016. And where we've been able to take that material, so that has all the valuables in it, and actually make it into usable product, where we've had that material actually used in new cells as well.
Right, is it kind of a sort of circular function there? So we're talking exclusively car batteries or predominantly car batteries, are we?
I talk about it generally as electric vehicles, but yeah, you're still talking about cell phone batteries, laptop batteries. There's still lithium-ion batteries.
Right. Okay. So what was your process recovery? What are we after?
So we're looking at lithium, nickel, manganese, cobalt. Right. Those will make up a majority of your material value in the lithium-ion battery cell. So that's changing numbers all the time with prices, but that's from my last check, majority of the value in that cathode is what it would be. But not only do we recover that as individual components, right? Because when it comes to the battery space, it's also upcycling it into very refined and specific materials that need to be to go back into battery manufacturing.
Right, now you've got this trademark zero loss. Again, just give us that. I'm trying to get definitions to it before we kind of get into the meaty questions. So zero loss is what?
Well, zero loss battery production is really where, we saw very early in the market that yes, electric vehicles are coming out right now, and there is small percentage that are coming off the roads, but it's not at those levels of volume that one would expect to build a large battery recycling plant. Where we really see a majority of the recyclable material coming from is actually from the battery production itself. Like, believe it or not, but these cells have to be made perfectly. And there's a lot of areas where there can be faults, and which would result in scrap. But that scrap is essentially, you have all the valuable materials on there, and it's right there. Think of logistics, easier to collect, recycle. And that's really what's, we talk about zero loss battery production, because instead of producing that waste, it's more taking that and taking a new opportunity with that material.
Right. So let's talk about this sort of intellectual property around this hydromet process that you use. So net zero is to do with net zero battery loss, but in terms of your recovery rates with your process, what do they look like in terms of the various materials?
So we say up to 100% lithium, nickel, manganese, and cobalt leach extraction efficiencies. And we've demonstrated that in our patent. You'll see 100%. Let's say at the demonstration plant level, and when you get to any kind of scale, even at the demonstration plant where we're at now at scale, we've even reported 99% leach extraction of the lithium, nickel, manganese, and cobalt. So scaling quite efficiently.
Well, yeah, that's extraordinary, isn't it? That's going to be like best in class, is it?
Yeah, from what we've seen in our research, and I mean, we have through our patent process, quite a novel way of going about the leaching of the materials and extraction process. And there's many reasons why we've shown the efficiencies there, from just the reagents used, the processing steps involved, and then those environmental benefits as well that come with it.
Okay, so we've interviewed a few recycling groups, different stages, but that if you're saying 100%, I mean, you're not getting kind of cute with the language here. Is you in terms of how you're defining recoverable? Are you saying if there's X amount of lithium in there, we're getting all of that lithium out without loss? That's what you're saying, yeah?
So that's like, so in your leaching stage, right? You have, and this is where you're right with the language, where somebody can be, when it comes to that broad recycling term, you can have this, shredding of the materials, and you have a certain weight of material that's shredded battery pack, and then you end up with maybe, 1,000 kilograms in and 950 kilograms out, and it's in black mass. You can say that's a 95% recovery. We're saying in leach extraction, so this is actually the chemical reaction, so leaching everything into solution, and that's where 100% is on your lab scale that we've shown at reported in our patent. So it shows, but when you get to real, like, industrial sized materials, you'll have embedded losses in there, right? There's just some efficiency things, but I would still say, at the very high efficiency compared to what we've seen out there in industry, and what we're showing at scale as well. So you will have, yeah.
I think it's just important, because sometimes people get lost in the marketing, and at the end of the day, it's about what your studies show that you're going to be able to produce in terms of revenue flow, and that's where I want to get to. So it's highly efficient, met process. You've been through pilot, and sorry, you're at demo plant phase at the moment, are you?
Demo plant phase, yeah. That's so,
right. And who's paid for that?
So we've paid for that, right? That was announced. We started commissioning of the demonstration plant in March 2022. So we're a year in. We have over 10,000 man hours put into the project, testing the different stages of the process, different optimization techniques, reporting on those results as we have been on our news releases. So that was a $2.7 million project on announcement, and continuing with the innovation.
Right. Okay. And sorry, I'm probably skipping through a few phases here, but let's say I do want to get to this really interesting bit, which is around money. So with the demonstration plant, you've announced that it's obviously doing bulk quantities, bulk samples for different groups to be testing with, presumably Korean, Japanese, and battery manufacturers and OEMs, and I guess the North American market is prime real estate for you too. So can you tell us about the numbers? How many people are testing these bulk samples?
So I could say, we've sent some of our end products to companies in Europe, North America, and Asia. All right. So there's a range within each of those regions, but the interest is really global. Some of those end products are lithium carbonate, lithium hydroxide. So we really do have an option of making both, and that's at battery grade purity. But then the other point I want to get to, which is going to really be important, the economics, is that we make cathode precursor material. So for those that don't know, that's actually the mixture of nickel, manganese, and cobalt. So we don't sell the individual nickel, manganese, and cobalt, because if you look at it from a value step up, that's, the nickel, manganese, cobalt's an intermediate, whereas this is the next refined stage, is precursor, and that's a multiple X, premium to the potential of the project, right?
Right. So, well, give us a sense, maybe in percentage terms or dollar terms, if you can, when you say it's a premium, what's the uplift?
So some of the numbers I've seen around, and if because you can get into the nuances of, like, well, what is that asterisk, like that footnote of which chemistry are you really looking at? But generally, if you're looking at black mass as like a value of X, you're looking at the intermediate. I'm going to give it a range of 2 to 4x, and then you're looking at the precursor and like battery grade, like lithium hydroxide. You're looking at that as like a 6 to 10x. right? So that's, we're getting there as well in less steps than what a conventional process would be to extract the individual components. So also the processing cost is a lot more efficient.
Well, yeah, there's the rub in this. Okay, so this demo phase that you're going through now, the bulk sample phase that you're going through now, how long do you expect to run that for? And so where are you with conversations with groups who are trialing?
Yeah, well, I mean, we have a pipeline of different groups from EV manufacturers, battery manufacturers, cathode manufacturers, lithium companies, like just all. You'd be shocked to see how much interest there is in recycling and how everybody wants to, um, you know, get in on that, seeing the opportunity and how they can supplement their supply chain. So we have a pipeline of, from some early stage starting testing to some more advanced stages where we've sent, bulk quantities and multiple iterations of material in different sizes for testing. And, we plan to, the demonstration plant has been very effective to date and really shown and helped us collect the engineering data we need for scale up. But I think with the battery industry constantly changing as well, and the amount of testing will be, we expect to be doing in the coming future. I'd always look at the demonstration plant as this ongoing innovation center, not to take us away from what our actual business model is in scaling multiple JV plants with strategic partners. But you almost need that central location as well to test, validate, qualify, validate the process, qualify the materials. So always see that demonstration plant as being a key part in our ongoing operation.
Okay, for the R&D component. Okay, so again, with the ongoing discussions, people sending you batteries, asking you to recycle their particular batteries. What's this again? What's that sort of that time frame look like? Because this hub and spoke model that you're going to have to employ in terms of where you locate these facilities, presumably right next door to the people producing the batteries, at some point would make a lot of sense. So in terms of how advanced those conversations are, in terms of how you advance those conversations, in terms of your financial commitment to advancing those conversations, can you give us any sort of insight?
Yeah, and I think you mentioned the hub and spoke model, right? And I think that's something our peers use more of that kind of business model, where it's this we call it a standalone recycling facility. You have collection centers that also get sent to a central location, and you're building more of a standalone recycling operation. So you're pulling from multiple areas. So that's more standalone. We're looking and that you require very intensive logistics team. Going out, trying to get as many contracts for feedstock that you can, the waste lithium-ion battery materials, right? That's to keep your operation going. Where we stand is an integrated business model, and that is more very focused on the technical side and going through a lot of detailed due diligence with potential partners. And that's where, we've taken more of a nimble approach, very asset light, very capital light, in first demonstrating at the demonstration plant, the process itself, taking that data to scale, but then having this more bespoke model of, after getting through those stages, where we have multiple MOUs with companies in forming JVs. We have these multiple MOUs, and the next step is really forming this JV, and then it's understanding that location, those processing needs, kind of that equity split on the JV, getting through all of those negotiations with the specific, particular companies. And I think every single one will have its different needs. So whether it's a 6,000 ton per year kind of plant or 20,000 ton per year plant, but that all stems from the demonstration plant and the data we're collecting from there. So it's much more focused and certain, I believe, right? Because you're going into it with a partnership where you have guaranteed kind of feedstock and offtake versus this standalone facility where you're kind of fighting for supply.
Yeah, we're speaking to a couple of companies who have a similar model to yours, and therefore it then comes down to the conversations that you're having, or first mover advantage into those markets, or having something significantly greener or cheaper or better in some way as defined by you and whichever JV partner, OEMs or battery manufacturers, because the feedstock is the critical component here, and the volumes is critical here, because as you said, we said earlier, you might be surprised. I'm not surprised. I've been to battery conferences around the world over the last year. People are super excited. Governments are moving and making money available. There's tax credits and tax incentives, but likewise, there's kind of punitive measures on OEMs who aren't delivering against the targets that they're set. So it's a super exciting space to be in. For you, I want to kind of get into the model. So I think I understand what you're saying there. It's that you will go and speak to multiple companies and work out the best solution for them, a bespoke solution for them. You did indicate that, what the equity split is. Is that going to be, do you hope that you can just come to the table with the intellectual property and that they fund the entire thing? Or do you think that you may be required to fund some or part of that, either plant build or whatever facility needs building? How do you imagine it working?
So, I mean, it's a case-by-case basis, but really looking at starting off from like a 50-50 and whether we would bring in the technology and whether, depending on the size of the facility, whether that's as well added capital involved with that as well. And then the other side bringing in, the other side being, say, a battery manufacturer, an EV manufacturer. They're essentially the gatekeepers of their waste that they're going to produce, them bringing in that waste feedstock, but then also being a customer for the offtake. So both sides bring in something very valuable, and maybe they bring in the capital as well. And that's, depending, like I said, from a 6,000 ton per year to 20,000, the capital needs are going to change. So that's all case by case basis as well.
Right. And do you have a build partner in terms of, again, because, they make batteries or they make cars and batteries or whatever they are, but someone's got to build these facilities, build these plants. I know you've just built a demo plant, but are you also bringing that to the table?
Yeah, we have, together, for those who don't know, I mean, we work with our R&D partner, Kemetco Research, very talented team that's helped us from the, invention of the process to the development of the demonstration plant. And with that team, I mean, themselves, they've built over 50 plus plants and, helped a lot of their past customers as well get a lot of their patents. So a very talented team from the technical side, and even seeing it through to the build out. But again, there's other teams, depending on, like I said, case by case basis. You may be working with somebody who wants to add a little bit more from their end and thinks they can contribute more on the operational side or the build out side.
Right. Okay. So I guess you'll inform us as and when those conversations advance to, MOUs or however you kind of move through those phases there. So in terms of where you're at today, 120 million market cap, we saw some tremendous highs early 2021, so share price up over like 220. Not quite sure what happened there, but it's obviously been a bit of a decline. Last year's tough for everyone, I get it. But is the company, in terms of its share register, where it needs to be now? Has it kind of recovered from that kind of overhang of that kind of exuberance of early 2021? Do you feel?
Yeah, well, I mean, not speculate too much here, but I mean, I look at 2021 highs and where we were, right? This is pre-demonstration plant, pre all the validation we've been getting from, industry leaders and in the testing of our material and the making of battery cells, and I look, those times, right? I think those were good times for many out there, and it's been a tough time in the market, and then where we are now, it's, I just look at it from where the business is at this stance, and I feel that we've advanced so much. There's the greater macro conditions that we sometimes can't control, but overall, I mean, the news has just been really positive for us, since those days.
So, so in terms of when's the last time you raised money for us? That's what give me an idea.
So October 2021 we did a $20 million financing. October 2021, yes. We did a $20 million financing. with institutional investors at $1 a share. And I think right now we're still just sitting under 20 million ourselves. We had a lot of warrants and options came in as well around the highs. So I think we're very, given our business model as well, very very lean, very smart with our spending, right? I think our runway is, we look at our runway from just, there's always going to be this ongoing R&D that comes and goes, but many months as well, with the rate we're going at now, and just being really smart with how we structure ourselves, right?
Right. Okay. No, and that's fine. That's fine. So you get $20 million cash flow. Is that kind of maybe through to, where do you think that takes you through to at the end of this kind of this bulk sampling process? Do you think you'll be able to, at the end of, when you get at or near the end of your $20 million, you'll be able to announce something positive along those lines in terms of JV partnerships? Is that the idea?
Definitely. I mean, I don't I see, commitment wise of the 20 million even being part of that as well for the development of first JV plant, and then that growing into that building the confidence in investors, and expanding from there into second, third, fourth JV as well.
Okay, fine. So in terms of the kind of share register, that institutional inflow October 21, I think will obviously maybe balance things out from that spike in early in the year. For you're saying, right, we can move in advance from where we are today, hopefully bring in one or two JV announcements into the mix. Where do they then put you in the kind of in the context of the US market? Because yes, it's kind of being tested globally, but everyone's testing everything from everywhere globally at the moment. Given where you're based, given that North American ecosystem, given the advance of the EV thematic over the last couple of years, will you be kind of focused on North America? I mean, what's the best use of your time and the best allocation of your resources?
Given all the tailwinds right now that in the North American market, like that, not to just mention the IRA, those incentives that companies have on recycling, right? So there's, earlier when we were talking about the economics and about the materials, there's a lot of the unaccounted upside, right? The potential carbon credits, the IRA benefits, just all of those things. So, there's definitely, I could say, a lot of interest in North America, and could see that. But like I said, we're open to the global expansion. You see a lot of gigafactories as well in Europe. And like I said earlier in the conversation, right, a lot of the recyclable material be coming from battery manufacturing waste. So that's where we're targeting. Where you see a gigafactory is probably most likely where we've already been targeting.
Right. Okay. Understood. So I think I've got a good idea of where you're coming at it from, and you try. I guess how do you, when you talk about being nimble or agile? I mean, what does that look like on a daily basis in terms of like your model? You actually see sort of lots of new entrants coming into the space, lots of kind of competition and so forth. What are your USPs?
Well, so the reason I say this is because when think of like the recycling companies coming in and kind of just to show that they have a place in the market, I feel like it's a signal to the world, like we're building a 20,000 ton per year plant or 50,000 ton per year plant. But like my logic is that just because you're building that doesn't mean you're going to get the waste material. So we're being very, when I say nimble and smart about things, is that we're at a manageable position right now. The demonstration plant itself, when you look at it, right, this is using equipment from commercial suppliers, right? This is not, we're not going from a lab scale and then going 100, 200, 300x scale up, right? We're talking maybe 20x scale up from the point we're at now to like, let's say a first commercial plant. So that's what I mean about being nimble. It's not about making the $50 million investment right now to build the plant and then hope we can get the waste material. It's about demonstrating and building our technology moat, and then bringing in the long-term partnerships, not just the short-term kind of offtakes.
Right. Okay. And coming back to the size and scale, like I noticed on your website, you talk about industry partners and so forth, but kind of not exactly household names or anything that anyone outside this industry would recognize. So, what's do you think it's going to be important to do that in terms of important to JV with the right sorts of people, or are you going to be able to, given it's $120-130 million company, depending on the time of day, how do you move through the phases to kind of lend comfort to whether it be to institutional shareholders, whether it be to the big raft of retail that you still have, or indeed being able to get industry partners involved with this? How do you kind of demonstrate that ability, that scale, outside of I guess competing on with the bulk demonstration samples?
Well, sorry, maybe may need to repeat that if I didn't understand clearly, but the way I really see it is like you're asking in terms of kind of the next catalyst. How do we get to the next catalyst as to get that JV partner, right? And so I guess that's yes, like in the headline news, call it, right? This is not we have over dozens of NDAs, right? And unfortunately, in this kind of model, that is going to take time where you're working with different companies. And that testing process, right? Some companies we've been talking to over a year, and it's all been positive since then, right? But that's kind of a timeline where, unfortunately, we're in some of these advanced stages with many companies where we've done the testing, where we've built the relationships. So we are in some of these advanced stages and discussions, past the technology side and more in the business discussion side, but the household names, they also have to be very careful themselves. If they're going to get into a long-term investment with the company and the JV to recycle their waste, they need to be very confident in the technology. And they're not going to go out there publicly until, they're ready. And that's, the restriction of many NDAs that we've signed, but I just know from the pipeline of work we're doing and the conversations we're having that, we have talked to many of these household names, and I think we're a well-recognized company out there in the recycling space by industry leaders.
And what do you think is going to move the dial as far as the market's concerned, though? So industry likes what you're doing, testing what you're doing. What is the news that people should be looking for from you, which says this is now getting serious?
Well, I'd say it's really like the big catalyst. I think most investors will be waiting for is that first JV plant, the next step up to commercialization. But some of those indicators as well is that look at the testing that the materials we've been sending, the testing we've been doing, right? We're not doing that for no reason. We're not doing that just to show that our technology works. We're sending our lithium to companies around the globe, and we're sending our cathode precursor to be, all these materials to be made into battery cells for reasons. And I think those are natural steps up to getting to that to getting to that big catalyst.
Right. And you think your team, you've got a good commercial team there to be able to do those transactions, do those deals, as it sounds today?
Yeah, I'd say together with, I really look at our R&D partner, Kemetco Research, as very close, and look at us as kind of that execution going forward. And they've been very supportive to this date. So yeah, I do see the skills from both ends to help support in that JV commercialization.
Okay, and the end of this year, success for you looks like what? We're sitting talking December. You want to be able to say what to me?
Well, hopefully next time we talk, we're talking about the details of the JV arrangement with, plans underway, design, equipment being ordered, getting through, site preparation, and maybe even by that point, some equipment being installed. But those are kind of the natural steps once once a solidified plan is in place, and we're moving forward on the scale up.
Zarko, appreciate your time today. Thank you very much for talking to us.
Thank you, Matt.